Hi, I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. I've got Miss Dig here today, and he is laying out where all the pipes and power lines and everything else in the yard are. So I can do something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Well, I've got 4 pieces of pipe stuffed into the ground in the backyard. They're 24 foot 6 between each one. It's just a nice little square. And I bet you're wondering why I'm doing that. Well, for the same reason that I had Miss Dig come and mark out all the power lines and gas lines and water lines. I'm putting up a building. Finally, the banks approved the loan. I pulled 2 CDs out. So my CDs will pay for half the building and then the loan will take care of the other half. I went down to Menards and I ordered the building. So it should be here in 3 weeks. I should be able to do the pouring sometime next week. I'm not exactly sure when that's going to happen. I want to wait until the concrete guy is free and available to do the work. And so it just takes a little time to get that taken care of. But it's been a long, long haul getting this far. We've gone through, I don't know how many iterations of this thing, trying to figure out what to do and where we're going to put it and when we're going to do it and how we're going to pay for it and all the other things going on. But the initial thought was always, I can leave my money in a CD that's paying 1% interest, and the 8% interest is going to take 7% of that money every year. 7% inflation above my 1% return. So, having the CDs, that was my retirement fund that I rolled over. We used the money for the house in getting the fireplace fixed up, putting a new driveway in, getting the kitchen rebuilt, getting the bathroom redone, both bathrooms redone, painting the inside rooms. We went through $30,000 just doing that. So, it was money well spent. I now have a house that grosses out at about $235 according to the last estimate. You remember I was going to move, so we had an appraisal done on the house at $235, and that was for a quick sale. If I wanted to go for $250, yeah, it would take longer to sell the house. So $235 is a good conservative number. I know everybody hates that word, but it's a good conservative estimate on what the house is worth in today's market. And we put $70,000 into it. So it's not bad. Bought the house for about $55,000. Then we got a home improvement loan to do part of the kitchen work. And so we've got about $70,000 invested in the house. That's not a bad return on that. Unfortunately, it's that Biden money. The Biden money that's only worth half as much as the money we had 4 years ago. So, life sucks and you carry on. We're going to have the metal building here, and we're going to go through a long series of me putting things together and building the building and running the wire to it and doing all that stuff. But it's a job that I just love the idea of. This is the kind of work that I've been wanting to do for 10 years. When we moved here, I wanted to put up a building, but we needed to do other things first. We needed to take care of the things that had to be done, and I was working in the basement, and I was happy having my basement workshop. But it's better to have a nice metal building. And the reason I'm going with metal instead of a pole building is metal doesn't burn. So if I put up a metal building separated from the house and I'm out here welding and something stupid happens, I burn up a building and I'll be really unhappy about that. But the chances of it actually catching and burning down, pretty slim. As long as I don't store flammable materials in here, I should be fine. So, going forward, we have sometime next week, we have a concrete guy starting to come over here and peel up the sod and topsoil and lay sand, and then he'll pour a concrete slab. Going with 4 inches thick, because that's the recommended thickness for the kind of building that I've got. It doesn't require footers. So he's going to just lay it out, pour it out, cut it, and have all that done in about 3 days. We're going to bring the concrete truck in along the side yard here. So I have to trim down these branches. And I think I'm just going to use the lopping pole cutter and trim them off and get them out of the way just so they don't scratch the top of the cement truck. Now the concrete contractor said, you know, that they really want to have no branches hitting their truck. And there's probably a couple of reasons for it. I've never discussed it with a concrete company, but I would imagine they don't want to hit a tree and have somebody complain about they damaged a favorite tree that their grandmother gave them back when she came across the prairie in a Conestoga wagon. Also, it's their truck. They don't want to have any damage to it, because if a truck's damaged, even if it's just a light bulb broken, then they have to have somebody fix it. That means that they have to spend a lot of time, effort, and money doing something that they really shouldn't have to if they just don't hit trees. So, I will be out here with a pole cutter and, well, it's lopping shears on the end of a long pole. And I'm taking those branches down, and I'll probably film that and show you what I'm doing. The power line, this is would be the this is the southeast corner of the building. I'm going to go from the southeast corner this way. I'm going to stay as close to the porch as I can, because I don't want to cut off any major limbs or major roots on this tree. I want to give it every opportunity to live. If I stay out this far and I just make one cut across this way, it shouldn't damage the tree a great deal. Then I have to move all this rock and come around the corner here to where the power panel is on the inside of the garage. And I'll run the wire up into the garage and into the service panel, connect that to a 60 amp breaker. I'm running a 100 amp wire, mostly because it's 105 feet to the building. I'm buying 130 feet of wire just to allow for up and down, and if I have to wiggle around a little bit to get around something. So 105 feet of wire has got a certain amount of resistance to it just from being there. So if you want to get all the voltage, you don't want to try and pump a whole lot of amperage through a wire that's over a minimum length. So the 105 feet. Over at the other house, I ran 102, 103 feet from the house to the workshop, but I used copper wire. This time I'm going to use direct burial aluminum wire. I was concerned about using aluminum wire, but it's considered normal. The power line that runs to the house is run in aluminum wire. I have the sewer line going to the septic tank that is just on the other side of that wall here coming through the basement. and then it goes over to where the sewer is, where the septic tank is. And I've showed you where the septic tank is, but we'll do it again. Septic tank is right here and there. Little depression there, little depression here. That's where I dug up the top of the tank so I could have it pumped. That line runs through here, up to the house, and centers under that window. And then we go from here up to the basement, up over by the air conditioner, and that line runs over there. Now I'm going to rent a ditch witch, but before I do any ditch witching, I'm going to come out here with a shovel, and I'm going to go down 2 feet and dig up that septic line so I can say it's right here. I want to stop short of running that ditch witch anywhere near it. Last thing I need to do is make more work for myself. So I really don't want to have a ditch witch going through the cast iron soil pipe that goes out to the septic tank. The house was built in the 60s. All the underground piping here is soil pipe. So that's where we're at with this project. Moving forward, I've been hesitating to say a whole lot about doing this. It's been killing me. I really wanted to tell you guys all about it, but things being what they are, I didn't want to get in any trouble saying, well, I'm going to do it again, because how many times have I said that? More than I want to count. Just a little aside, 20 years ago, a friend of mine gave me some wire. And this is number 2 aluminum wire. And I thought, oh, I can use that. And I could, except it's been damaged. See the exposed conductors? Now one wire is open. You can see that it's cut off on that, down next to the thing. I got 3 conductors, the white one's the neutral. That one is probably the ground wire because it's smaller. It's number 2. No, that's number 4, this is number 2. So I don't want to risk it. I don't want to spend all this time, effort, and money putting in the wire going under the ground, because the biggest part of the whole thing is digging a trench. The wire's expensive. It's going to be about $120, $130. That's why I'm going with direct burial, called URD. And it's the same wire that they use for services for the house. And it's recommended for sub panel, powering sub panels. And that is going to be the way we're going to do it, because I don't want to risk using that old wire. So now I have a large coil of scrap aluminum, which it can go into making projects. Something like, I don't know, ingots. Just melt it down, cast it up, and say goodbye. That way I won't have that coil of wire that I've been moving for 20 years. My friend gave it to me, and I really appreciated it. If I was going 20 feet, I wouldn't worry about it at all. I'd hook that up and away we'd go. But since I'm running so far, and it's going to be such a pain in the neck to dig it in, I don't want to risk it. And I've got confirmation on where the power lines are. And Comcast has always been an easy one to find, because when the guy buried it, he used a shovel, stuffed the shovel into the ground, wiggled it back and forth, and pushed the wire into the hole. And there it is. This is where the consumer's power line runs in from the power pole. And inside that sheath, that's the line that comes down from the power pole, goes underground, goes to the house. From way up there. Funny thing is, it's fed from across the street with those 3 little lines. They go over to a power pole over there that feeds power to the ground level transformer in the side yard there. That's what feeds his house. And along the front here, this yellow lines is where the gas line is. I knew that came along in through here, but I wasn't exactly sure where the line went through the yard. Looks like the gas line's been here a long, long time, because it goes along here, and if you see it, it's right underneath that cherry tree. So if that cherry tree gets uprooted, we might lose gas line. Although I think they go way deep. I'm pretty sure they go far enough down it's going to not be bothered by a stump. And you ask, what's the blue for? Well, the blue is water. We're on city water. We have a septic tank, but we have city water. It was available. They decided they were going to go with it. So, city water, there it is. There's a pump underneath the porch there, but they disconnected the pump, went with city water. I think it's a great idea. You don't have any problems with city water. It's always there because there's a huge water tower out of the edge of town that feeds water to the city of Richland. And because we're on this street, city water runs down this street because the school is right over there. And the village begins down there at that white line, or that white sign down there. That's the edge of the village. So this has been a long rambling talk, but I've been wanting to tell you about it for about 2 months. We've been talking about this, between trying to buy a house and deciding not to buy a house, then coming up with the alternative of back to the original plan of putting the building in the backyard. I'm glad to see it finally starting. If you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching.
This video is not to be viewed by anyone under the age of 13 in the U.S. or 16 in the European Union without the express written permission of the parents or the legal guardians of the underage person. Such written permission must be on file at the local government entity in charge of enforcing the rules and regulations established by the FTC. Anyone violating these terms is admitting by default that they hold harmless the owners and operators of this channel. Any and all questions should be addressed to your local branch of the FTC.